Welcome, everyone. On behalf of the Projectors Society, I'm Zette Harbor, and I wanted to do a brief video to give you some idea of what the explorations for the projectors who are going to be guests on the podcast will look like. And so for anyone who doesn't know, the Projector Society is a brand new community centered around a podcast. And the podcast is where we're going to explore a variety of projector charts with the guest so that they can share with us their experience of the elements of their design as they've experienced them so far, what they notice, what they don't notice, as a way of giving each projector an opportunity to awaken to their true nature, their true identity. And also, as others are observing and watching, particularly projectors, you're going to learn about yourself through the other, which is part of the design of projectors. What you see on the video right now is a platform called Maia Mechanics, and it is authorized and run by Jovian Archive and the International Human Design School. They are the keepers of the original knowledge as it was shared by Ra Uru, who was the founder of human design. I use Maia Mechanics mostly because it's the first software program I started learning about human design on. And since that time, I've experimented with other softwares, but this one so far is my favorite. And so as I'm going through the chart of the guests, I'm going to be able to utilize and demonstrate the elements of this platform that help each person understand their design more deeply. For example, you can see right here on the right-hand side, there it shows you immediately type projector. This is my chart. Then the strategy for projector, wait for recognition, and the invitation. It's really important and much appreciated that the strategy listed here is complete rather than just wait for the invitation, which I know there's a lot of confusion and maybe even miscommunication about what that means. The specificity of wait for recognition and the invitation is a really important topic for projectors to explore. Next, it shows the signature, and for all projectors, the signature is success. That is something that we really yearn for in our lives. It's something that when we feel success, it lets us know that, tends to let us know that life loves us, life likes us and wants us to be happy. When in fact, the success is really a great way to know that you're following your strategy, authority, and for projectors, staying in alignment with your motivation. Here are some words from Ra on projectors and motivation. I have an extraordinary respect for the potential of projector recognition. I have watched over the years the involvement of projector students and the depth of their involvement and the intelligence behind all of that, this projector gift of recognizing. But this is what the projector is about, to be able to recognize and now to have a signpost for yourself, to be able to set your honing device, your aura ability to enter into the aura of the other, and to be able to recognize right away whether this is someone who is going to pull you to what is your true motivation, somebody who will support that motivation, that will help nourish that motivation, rather than somebody that is constantly pulling you away to the transference. Then you can begin to discern. You can begin to see they're not for you, those beings. As a projector, this is everything. That success is an indicator. It tells you how well you're following your strategy, authority, and in alignment with your motivation. When it's missing, that doesn't tell you anything bad about you or the world or the other people. What it tells you is it's time to check in and see how can you pivot and shift and return to your strategy and authority. The not self theme for all projectors is bitterness. And if you're a projector, no explanation necessary. Although I will say when I first discovered human design back in July of 2021, I thought to myself, I'm not a bitter person. And I really observed over the next few months how I had been camouflaging my bitterness and talking myself right out of it being true for me and pretending that it was something else, some other emotion. And so it's really valuable to be able to recognize your bitterness. Your bitterness, again, is also a signpost. It's telling you, all right, time to check in and realign with your strategy and authority and your motivation. So the bitterness is not a sign of failure, which is easy to interpret if what we're all desiring as projectors is success. Bitterness is not the sign that we're a failure. The bitterness is the sign that we have shifted away or fallen away from following our strategy, authority, and we're out of alignment with our motivation. So being able to notice your bitterness is such a gift and so important. So if you have maybe tried to pretend that you're not bitter, or tried to talk yourself out of it like I did, or, want to be in denial about any bitterness you feel, that won't help you, because the bitterness is the first thing that tells you, oh, I'm not following strategy and authority, and I should look and see, is this person or this relationship or this situation helping me, supporting me in staying aligned with my motivation, or is it pulling me into transference? So the next element that Maia Mechanics shows is your authority. And for projectors, there are 5 different possible authorities. Mine is called self-projected. If you're not familiar, I'll just very quickly, you can have a solar plexus center defined, which makes you an emotional authority. The highest on the hierarchy of authorities, anyone with a defined solar plexus will always have an emotional authority. Next one on the hierarchy is the sacral center. When this is defined and that solar plexus is not, that is your authority, and you're automatically a generator. You could be a generator and be an emotional authority. So after that comes the splenic authority. That's when the splenic center is defined, but the sacral and the solar plexus are not. After that, we get the ego authority, and that ego authority can either be an ego projected or an ego manifested, depending on which channel is bringing that into definition. And then we have the self-projected projector. This is when the G center is defined, but nothing else below it is defined. So therefore, it's always defined in collaboration with the throat center in order to be self-projected projector. As you can see, in my case, I also have the ajna defined. It's also possible to have the head center defined with this authority. The only 2 that are required, however, are the G and the throat. Then you have what's called a mental projector, and what they have is an environment authority. So it's an outer authority. And for that, there is no definition below the throat. So it can be head, ajna, throat. It could be head, ajna. It could be ajna, throat. It could be any of those 3, as long as there's nothing below the throat. And finally, the last authority is specifically and only for reflectors, and that is the lunar authority, and they must follow the cycle of the moon. The next thing that Maia Mechanics shows us is the definition, which is really referring to, is it a single definition, as mine is? And it's single because all the defined centers are connected to one another. If it's a simple split, it means that there are 2 sections that have definition, but they are separated by 1 gate. If it's a wide split, they're going to be separated by a full channel or more. And then there's a triple split, which means 3 different sections of definition separated from one another. And then even a quadruple split is possible. The next element is the profile. You can see right here, I'm a 3/6. The next element you can see is the incarnation cross. And so what these numbers here are showing is my personality sun, my personality earth, my design sun, and my design earth, which you can see over here. Here's my personality sun. You can see that little symbol there. There's my personality earth. There is my design sun, and here's my design earth. These 4 gates together will determine what my incarnation cross is. Here it shows us the circuitry. And in my case, I only have 2. And by circuitry, we mean full channels only. And so you can see here with the 4323 and the 18, that's individual circuitry, which the keynote there is empowerment. Then you've got here on this side, collective logic, and then we've got collective abstract over here. And that's where the sharing keynote comes from. All collective circuitry has an obligation to share. All right. And then, you see some other really just helpful information here. It shows the defined centers very quickly, which you can see in the image, and you can also read them there. It shows which are the open centers. It lists the defined channels. In my case, there are only 4. And then it can go into more detail with each of the activations, personality and design. So that's as far as we'll go into in the Projector Society podcast explorations. However, I will say that because we are working strictly with projectors for this podcast, it will be valuable to click over here on the advanced and just check in with the motivation. In this case, it's color number 6, innocence. So when you're a guest on the podcast, the way I would like to recognize you and invite you in exploring your own design is first to acknowledge your authority. And we also will be taking into account what your profile is, and also the fact that projectors are designed to be more interested in the other. Our whole aura, if you're familiar with the description of the projector aura, it's this focused and absorbing aura. So it just sort of tunnels out, like a laser beam, really, and tunnels into the other person. And so not only do we want to know about the other, we're just built that way. And so it can be more challenging for projectors to look at themselves, and there's nothing wrong with that. As we do the explorations with the individual projectors, they'll explore what it feels like to understand their design elements more clearly. And then as they watch others, or as you watch them, as a projector, you are going to see yourself in them. And so this will be supportive of projectors coming to greater awareness about their true nature and their true role. So this is how the interviews will go. I will click on an aspect of your design, and this little box will open, which will give us the name of the channel of structuring. There's the numbers. The tagline there is a design of individuality, often referred to as just genius to freak. In my case, as we already said, it's the personality sun and it's the personality earth, and each of them has a line quality, a minor third line quality. So we can click on that, and then we can see that gate 23, splitting apart the gate of assimilation, it's related to amorality, the awareness and understanding that leads to acceptance of diversity. The third line is called individuality. And the blue description here, independent expression that is not by its nature detrimental to others. So that gives us some idea of how this particular gate will express itself through this channel. And particularly because it is from the ajna to the throat, it's going to definitely involve expression. Expression that will be individual, be independent, that will be amoral, accepting of diversity, but will not by its nature be detrimental to others. Now, it turns out that gate 23 is exalted when there's an activation with the sun. And so what we want to look at here are the italics, the words in italics, individual expression which attracts attention but not threat. So each line is going to have an exaltation or a detriment. And, Ra says, don't assign a value to exaltation or detriment. It's not that exaltation is a yay and detriment is a ugh. It's simply the language. So it could just as easily be individual expression that attracts suspicion and threat if I did not have this in my sun. That would not make it bad, and it would not make me bad. It just means that this might be something that I notice and experience in life. The awareness of it is all that's required. So in my case, however, it's exalted by the sun. That means that my individual expression very likely will attract attention, but not threat. So potentially I'm not going to have people attack me for things that I express that are individual, that are strange, because it is that channel of the genius to freak. That doesn't mean people are going to like everything I say. Right? What this will all depend on is whether I'm following my strategy and authority. And so then we can look at the 43, which is the other end of that channel, and we see that it is called breakthrough, the gate of insight. For achievement to be maintained, a new order must be fairly established. And the third line quality is called expediency. And you can see here there's neither detriment or exaltation in my particular chart. So it may be that there will be times when I'll experience a certainty in knowing which can withstand condemnation. It may also be that individual insight abandoned in the face of condemnation condemnation. Like I might just not be willing to say or stand by my insights if I feel like people are going to condemn me for it. So I may experience either of these with this third line quality to it, but it will be always related to the insights I have. And because this whole channel is Genius to Freak, channel of structuring, of ideas, design of individuality, so it means it's going to be stuff that just pops up for me that appears to be true. And because it is an individual channel, there's this individual circuitry quality, which we described earlier. The keynote is empowerment. However, one of the qualities that's really important about individual circuitry is that it comes in a pulse. It's there and it's gone. It's there and it's gone. And when we have individual circuitry, and there's quite a lot of it in the whole body graph, but in my case, these two channels, I'm going to suddenly have realizations or insights. And because both of them are connected to the throat, they're going to probably be something I'm going to say out loud or create in the world. And so if I'm not following my strategy and authority, this one, I am going to be looked at as a freak. Now, if I followed my strategy and authority and I've been correctly recognized, correctly invited, and the other person supports me in staying aligned with my motivation and color of innocence, then what I have to say, the insights I'm ready to share that are accepting of diversity, those will be received as empowering insights. And I will be empowered in my own realization of them and my own living through them. So that's the 4320. So that's what it looks like to explore just one channel. And as we go through each guest chart, depending on how many channels you have defined, we may not get to all of them. The reason I started with this channel is because these top four numbers, these top four gates, because they are the sun and earth, they make up 70% of my identity. And so with each guest, that will be the primary place that we'll begin. Another place that's really important to talk about, I do not have it, but if you have a bridging gate in your design, that's going to be an area of particular significance for you. And so that would be another good place to dive in. Now, because these explorations are not full foundation readings, they are not an analysis by a certified human design analyst. I'm not a certified human design analyst. I am a student. I'm completing the first year of the first level of analyst certification training. What my purpose here, my intention, and no surprise, it'll be revealed here, is that I will be drawing upon my individuality to share my individual expression to attract attention, not to me per se, but attracts attention to the elements of your design that may begin to connect you more deeply to your true nature. I will do this from a place of awareness and understanding that leads to acceptance of diversity. I will also be doing this by drawing upon insights that simply arise. They will come in a pulse or they will not. And I may have a sense of certainty in knowing, or I might abandon my insight in the face of condemnation. In this case, I am really clear about my strategy and my authority and my motivation. So I'll talk about that now. My motivation, as we said, is innocence. And that means having no agenda. It means that I don't have an expectation of how this will turn out, what will come of it. I have no attachment to some sort of result that increases my success, actually. And the other element of this is I am listening for the correct recognition from the podcast guests. And based on their invitation to partner with me, I've let them know this opportunity exists. And then they get to say whether they want to invite me to lead them through this exploration. And when we each are following our strategy, authority, and motivation correctly, then we will end up coming together on a recording. We will explore explore the guest's chart, I will draw upon my insights and awarenesses that come in pulses, these realizations, and I will express them without judgment. There will be a complete acceptance of diversity. And as a projector, I will be recognizing you, the guest, and I will be inviting you to share your experiences, your observations in alignment with your authority, your circuitry, your profile, and of course, our mutual type as projectors. So I hope that helps with a little bit of an introduction of what these explorations will look like, the direction that we'll be heading. Now, I'm a 3/6. Third lines, we are all about trial and error. We experiment all the time. And I'm laughing because I can't not experiment. So for me, this is purely an experiment offered in the most innocent manner with the most innocent energy that I'm being guided by my self-projected authority. That's where the inspiration to put out this identity called the Projectors Society. It came through my spontaneous speaking, which for a self-projected projector is how my authority will present itself. The questions I'm supposed to ask are, does this potential decision make me happy? Will it help me express my truth? And will it take me in a direction that is correct for me? And so over the months of repeatedly hearing myself talk about it spontaneously, this projector community, which the name Projectors Society came through very clearly, that's what it wanted to be called. In hearing that again and again and really opening myself to the clarity of, will this projector society make me happy? Will exploring projectors charts with this innocent and very accepting of diversity approach make me happy? And the answer is yes, because it's absolutely what a third line loves to do, is like, let's just experiment. Let's see where it goes. Leaving it completely open to you being able to be the one who decides, what meaning does this have for you? Which I'll just say that relates to part of my other design, that this be a way of us creating meaning, making meaning. I'll go into that maybe another time. Again, let's see, I'm absolutely clear on following my strategy, my authority, and being aligned with my motivation, the innocence. As a 6 line, over 50, well over 50, I am living in the phase of a 6 line life where I have the capacity to live as a role model and to share the wisdom of my experiences. As long as I'm following my strategy and authority and staying in alignment with my motivation, then that'll land how it lands, because I'm not going to be attached to the outcome. If you have questions, send them to me. You can post them in the comments of the video as well. You can connect with me at humandesignprojectorssociety.com. There's a Facebook page for this group now, and I have my own human design website called elementalhealingcenter.com. And there are places there where you can communicate with me. There's a contact form. You could set up a virtual coffee date if you just have some questions. And I think I might even have an email on there. My name is Zet Harbor. I look forward to experimenting with these explorations with each of you projectors for whom it is correct to do so. And for anyone who is going to be watching and exploring, I would love to hear your observations that what is it that you discover in yourself as you are observing, seeing these other projectors explore their charts, their designs, and these elements that make each of us who we are.